Lockette.
We know that. And an incredible story. Ricardo, first career with the Seattle Seahawks.
Ricardo's going to leave if you say that again.
No.
For sure.
So right now we're breaking down this matchup.
Look at that. It's no joke.
Yeah, let's look at those rings. Isn't it fun to just wear those?
Yeah, man.
That's a lot.
You got to work your wrists out, man. It gets heavy after a while.
I mean, that's fantastic. I love to see these rings. And do you get blown away walking around here and seeing those Hall of Fame jackets? And do you even get in awe when you see a Joe Montana and some of the guys you're seeing walk around here?
It's more of like when you play high school and college football, and then the guys come back that graduated, 2 or 3 years before. It's like, oh, what's up, man? Coach been telling me about you, or this, I watch film on you, and that kind of thing. So it's not more of excitement from a fan standpoint unless you were a fan before. So a lot of times you end up understanding who these people are once you get to a certain age, because you didn't watch them when you were young because they played so far before you. So once you get tuned to who they are, then it's like you have a different respect for them. So it's cool.
So we're breaking down this matchup, 49ers and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And first, who do you like? What's your bold prediction?
49ers.
Are you sure about that?
I think so.
49ers.
Why the 49ers?
One, because I played for them. Two, because one of my best friends, Richard Sherman, plays for them. And three, because it's my dad and my brother's favorite team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I played for him, and I played in the Super Bowl.
And you played for
it. Right.
You were talking about, seeing some of the veterans come through. Is that one of the things that maybe when you're in the middle of the journey, you don't appreciate it until you've come through the other end of the fire? You see these old guys like, oh, whatever, he played back in the day. You don't realize the respect they're due until you get through that journey yourself.
Exactly. So you're like, oh, man, whoever, like whatever, like I'm fast, I'm strong. But then once you're not playing anymore and then you walk in that locker room and it's like, man, you don't understand the work that I put in. You don't understand the physical pain I endured just to continue just to play. You come here now and you say, oh, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl or the 49ers went to the Super Bowl in 2012. But what did we go through to get there? So now, you walk by the players and they have no clue who you are. So it's like, hey, I'm here. I played in the last Super Bowl you guys were at. It's like, cool. So, yeah, like you said, that's exactly how it is.
So they've got some veteran leadership in that locker room, and you played with Joe Staley. What does a guy like that bring in? What does he mean to your team?
Joe is his role is going to be imperative, because I think what happens a lot of times you get blinded by the lights. You get blinded by it's the Super Bowl. You get blinded by, oh, we had 2 weeks of playing and I'm just ready to get over and all these other things. But he's been there. Joe's played in the big games before, and it's going to come down to the team that settles in first. You're not playing the Patriots that's there all the time and they're for sure settled in. You got two young teams that a lot of these guys never been in the playoffs. So now they're playing in the Super Bowl, so it's going to come down to who can take that deep breath and just relax and just understand that it's still the same football field, it's the same ball, and just play ball.
And a great point you made about kind of been through that before. Jimmy Garoppolo never played in the Super Bowl, but he was there twice with the Patriots, and he said he knows what to expect. He knows how the buildup is and all the distractions that can be there. So even though he doesn't have that on-field experience, he's been there and done that as far as all the hoopla that leads up to the game, and that could be important.
That's true. And I didn't think about that. That's what makes this conversation great. But, yeah, for sure. So you got Joe, you got Jimmy. Who's on the Chiefs that played in the Super Bowl?
I haven't studied up on that.
That's a good trivia question.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer?
I don't. Maybe we're going to leave it to the fans.
Well, we have to tweet us some answers on that.
Chiefs fans tell us.
But that's what you said. Like, everybody tells you.
Andy Reid's coached in a Super Bowl.
Frank Clark? No, he didn't win one.
No.
He wasn't there with us.
But you said about, every athlete, you've heard this a million times, regardless of the sport. I've been to NBA finals. Like I say, I'm going to treat this like it's another game. I'm going to treat this. And you're like, no, you're not. Because when you see those lights and before that ball gets kicked, it's going to hit you. Does it hit you when you're like,
it's going to hit you?
This is Super Bowl.
It's going to hit you unless you've done it before. So, like, for me, by the time I got to my third one, then I was like, okay, and it
takes three to get there.
It was my consecutive third one, So, your first time touching the stove, is different than your fifth. You know?
That should be on a T-shirt right there.
Yeah. So I know Chris hasn't played in a Super Bowl, and I haven't played in a Super Bowl. What is it like those night 3 before, night 2 before, the night before? What is that like?
Nerve-wracking. You're just ready to get it over with, because you're the type of person, you're the type of man that if something happens, then you approach it head on. Most of these guys are alpha males, so that we don't talk about stuff too long. Even if it's a confrontation, there's no you push me, I push you back. It's not a lot of talking. It's go time. So this is the only time where there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of build-up. There's a lot of interviews. There's a lot of this and that. So you just ready to do it.
Tony Dungy told me one time, he said, look, every NFL game, especially in the playoffs, it's going to come down to like 4 or 5 plays that's going to make the difference. But the thing is, you don't know before those 4 or 5 plays what is going to happen. You don't know the ball's going to come your way. Oh, this ball's going to bounce funny. That's why this is so much more magnified than a Week 7 game against Denver. This is the Super Bowl the world's watching. And that one play where you miss an assignment, they're going to the house, and you're remembered forever in a negative way.
Exactly. That's why the first week we go over all game planning, all this and that. The second week we're going to revise it, and we're also going to go more into depth on the player. So first you have to understand what you have to do. So when you understand your job, then you have to understand how to do your job and manipulate that person's responsibilities. So it's pretty deep. It's pretty deep, man. It's a lot. In
addition to doing 7,000 interviews, everybody wants to talk to you, the media day circus and all that stuff. I can only imagine. But one thing I wanted to touch on you real quickly is you talked about people don't realize the work you put in. They remember those 16 games in the playoff. They don't realize the off-season workouts, the grind, the trying to get yourself rehabbed and ready. When you think about, you look at players nowadays, you got Andrew Luck retiring before he's 30, Luke Kuechly. These are Pro Bowl type guys. People are starting to realize, even in the prime of their career, what kind of toll this can take on your body during your career and then obviously after.
Exactly. So, and that's why after football, I decided to get with the Harvard football group. And you can follow them at Players Study on Instagram and Twitter. But so what these guys are doing, you got a group of the world's best cardiologists, the world's best neurologists. And what they're doing is they're studying football to figure out how they can make it safer. They're figuring out, is it the helmets? They're figuring out, is it the shoulder pads? Is it the workload? Is it the amount of games? Is it caused by middle school, high school, college head-on collisions? Do you have CTE before you get there? So it's a lot of things that we have to figure out, and those guys are working day and night to get it done. And I have no doubt that they'll make the game safer.
Ricardo, of course, if you don't know Ricardo's story, go read a story he wrote, column he put together for Players Tribune. It's fantastic. It gets into great depth. How hard was it for you to make that decision to walk away from this game? Because we know how much work you put in, and you've had the chance to play for Super Bowls, and maybe could have been more in the future.
For sure.
But you took a hit, and just got to scare the daylights out of you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, anything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger, for sure. And we've all been through things that we wanted to happen. We wanted to go another way, and you just had to sleep with it. And nothing your wife, nothing your sister, nothing your brother can tell you makes it better. So with me, football, once I got hurt and my career ended, I had already went to a Super Bowl, I had already won a Super Bowl, which was never in the plans. My only goal was to just do something and to put my family in a better situation, and I did that. So once it was over, I felt like I had completed most of my goals. So it wasn't hard for me to say goodbye, because I don't feel like I was born to throw a football. I don't feel like I was born to catch a football. Neither you guys. I don't feel like you guys were meant to throw and catch a ball. Like, whatever your purpose is probably has something to do with making your family better or people around you, or something that leads to leaving the type of legacy that you want to leave behind. And right now, working with Football Health State is going to give players that you're cheering for, the Chiefs and the 49ers that are playing in this game, it's going to give their kids the opportunity 10 years from now for their dad to drive them to work, for them to throw a football with their son, for them to walk their daughter down the aisle. Because it's I get the calls that you fans don't get. Concussions, suicide, depression. I'm not who I used to be. Everybody used to glorify. Everybody wanted to see me on TV. They wanted to interview me. Now I'm in the house by myself. Nobody cares. I lost my money. We're figuring out how to change all of that. So I'm excited about this part of my career.
I know I've talked to a lot of athletes, and especially Olympians, after an Olympic cycle's over, depression hits. Because all those cameras and all those reporters and all the people that have helped you to get to where you are along the way, they're gone.
Even veterans.
Yeah. And so how do you get through that?
It's tough, man. If your family, everybody in your family stopped talking to you today, and you moved into another apartment and you was there by yourself and they never called and checked on you, never wrote you any emails or anything, how would you get over that?
Probably never.
Yeah.
You'll never, because you're going to keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it. And then even if you create another family, you're still going to think about it. Right. So that's just, it's something that's just a part of life. It's just, it's just one of those things.
Well, sometimes in life, you need somebody to get to the other side and pull you through, and I think you're doing a heck of a job on that. And you look like you could give us at least one good series out there. Right. I think we could trot you out there. I don't know about the conditioning, but one series at least.
Oh, I can give it to you. It's all heart and mind. It's all heart and mind, for sure.
Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us. And again, if you want to know more about his story, read his column on the Players Tribune. It is amazing, and you'll learn a lot about what this game is,
for sure,
in all different facets.
For sure.
Speaking of injuries, he just hurt my hand with all those rings. You'll be hearing from my attorney, Ricardo. Well done.
Right, I expected that.
All right, awesome,
all right,
good
guys.
stuff.
Thank you. I enjoyed myself. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's awesome when you hear, like he said, everybody wants to talk to you when you're in the limelight.
Yeah.
But then that limelight dims.